Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about these ETS 30 round magazines. Are they any good? The answer is no, they're not. I mean, obviously I got a bunch of them over there. I got many more. They're a fun novelty, but two problems with them. Number one, they're extremely hard to load. Once you get past this halfway point over here, it takes a lot of effort to load these. In the time that it takes me to load one of these magazines, I can load like 3 of these 17 round magazines, okay? So they're really slow to load, but what also happens is that you got that long spring in there, right? And what tends to happen is just because it's so long, it tends to snake back and forth a little bit, and it kind of gets tangled up with itself. So sometimes, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes as you're shooting and that follower is pushing up, at some point the spring will get bound up and it's just no longer going to be pushing up. It's not going to be feeding, and then what happens is if you hold it like this, the bullets will just kind of drop out because there's no upward pressure. Now, usually if you take it and you tap it, you'll shake it loose and it'll start working again, but it's not reliable. Okay, like I said, it's a fun novelty. Now, don't confuse this with the 17 round magazines. Okay, these, even though it's the same exact magazine, right? The only difference is this is 17 rounds. This one's 30 rounds. These ETS 17 round magazines are extremely reliable. Okay, they're basically, I use these exclusively. I don't use any other magazines now. I got a whole box over here full of these. These are the ones that I use. They're a big convenience for me that I can look through it and easily see how many rounds I have in there. Especially as I'm traveling around training people. Sometimes I'll tell people put 3 rounds in there, or 5 or 8. And they can quickly look at it and they can see how many rounds that they have in there without having to ask me, right? Because if you have the little holes in the back, like on the KCIs and the Glocks, I mean, a lot of times people can't really tell. So I've got people coming to me to count the rounds for them, whereas with this, they can easily see it. It's a major time saver for me. So that's why I love these ETS magazines, okay? But the 30 rounds magazines, not reliable. They kind of get bound up. The spring gets bound up. Now, question becomes, why do the AR magazines, right, which are about the same length, how come these are so reliable whereas these are not? I can only guess because the spring is longer. All right, it's about, I don't know, about 2 fingers long versus this spring is 1 finger long. So this one basically tends to squiggle back and forth, whereas this one, because it's longer inside the magazine, it's less prone to doing that. That's the only reason I can think of, because they are pretty much the same length. The spring looks like it's about the same thickness. So I really don't know the answer to that. I can only guess. But these 30 round magazines for the ETS, other than buying this for a novelty of having it, and like I said, obviously I got a bunch of them. These I do not consider reliable. But again, don't confuse it with the 17 rounders. All right, you can see how dirty these are because these get a lot of use. Okay, I use these exclusively. These are great magazines. Only thing, and I did a prior video on this. You be aware that the feed lips, right, because they're plastic, they are consumable. Okay, the original Glock magazines and the KCI magazines, they got the steel feed lips, and what happens is if you're shooting them in a gun like this Palmetto PX9, it does not have a last round bolt hold open. Right, so what that means is after the last round fires, the bolt goes across the top and it rubs against the feed lips and it shaves it down, right? You can see how that's a little worn over there, right? I did a prior video on this. If you guys want to, you can search it. It's look up ETS versus KCI magazines, and you'll see. I talk about how these feed lips get chewed up if you're shooting them in the Palmetto PX9, specifically because it doesn't have a last round bolt hold open. But if you're shooting them in your your Glock 17 or your P80, because this is gonna lock open on that last round, the slide is never gonna run across the feed lips and wear them down. So if you're shooting them in a gun that has that last round bolt hold open, the magazines will last a lot longer If you're not, you know, they're gonna get, you know, worn down over time. Which, hey, I mean, they're whatever, $13 magazines, not a big deal. I get these at botoc.com. I find that they got the best price on these ETS magazines. All right, so they're about, like I said, they're something like $13. I get tons of them from them. Yeah, the thing I want to discuss with you guys is, you know, other than the novelty, don't get the 30-round magazines. Do get the 17-round magazines. They're very good. It's very convenient to be able to see what you got in there. Yeah, that's what I got for you guys today. Hope you guys found this video useful. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon.